Welcome to episode 73 of Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah.
My name is Tyler.
And we are very excited to welcome on this week's guest. This week's guest is an incredible magician and animator. You might know him from his TV show, Illusions of Grandeur, or the recent deck of cards that he just kickstarted, the Genie deck, and he animated it himself. So this is a very, very special deck of cards, a very, very special interview. Very excited to have him on. Here he is, Zack Mirza. Zack, how are you doing?
Jonah and Tyler, how you guys doing?
We're good.
We're doing
good.
well. We're doing really
Excited
well.
to be talking to you.
Exactly,
Thanks
enjoying
for
the
having me
beautiful
on the show.
Very, very excited to have you. Couldn't be more excited to have somebody who has obviously had so many incredible accolades, like making a deck of cards and having your own show, but also as much worldly as we are, we do love those Toronto guys. So
yeah, it's all about the local ones.
Really happy to have you join us. And let's start as we usually start in the episodes. How did you get into magic?
For sure. Yeah, like I would say a lot of the magicians that have come on the show before, my story is a little similar in the sense that, you know, it was a young childhood experience. I saw a magician performing at this carnival when I lived back in London, and you know, literally it was by seeing him like levitate a dollar bill and do all these amazing things that I just became obsessed with it, you know. Mm-hmm. And so pretty much like from that point, you know, I would my grandfather at the time actually as well. He was not necessarily a magician, but he was someone who really, really loved magic and pranking people, you know. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big part of, you know, obviously magic and what we do. We love fooling people and making people happy and react in a very surprising way. So I mean, he got that ingrained in me as a kid, and obviously, you know, that translated into everything that I've done with magic, and you know why I love it so much. So that's pretty much how it all started for me.
But you're not like a prankster type of a magician, more of a slow, methodical, David Blaney sort of. So how did you get that? How did you evolve that persona from sort of learning magic from the
practical joke side of things?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's about more of the effect that it had right on me, right? Being a kid, obviously seeing some things that made me react in that way. It just kind of got the gears turning, and I really started to like kind of dive into the mystery and the whole art form itself, just from reacting and seeing how someone could react to magic as well, right? Because, you know, especially with that magician that was performing that I saw, I just saw how he was able to command the whole entire room, and you know, just everyone's reaction and their excitement for what he was doing. Just it was. You know, it was so addicting. Like I saw it and I was just like, wow, this is exactly what I want to do in my life.
Mm-hmm. So what was that journey like? So from knowing that it was exactly what you wanted to do to getting your own TV show, what's that journey like? Did you start, you know, cold calling clients? Did you like find a manager? Like how did you really start getting yourself out there?
You know, to be honest with you, like I've always kind of been I've naturally always been somewhat of an introvert when it comes to magic, and I know it's a very extroverted art form, but you know, it's been one of those things where I've kind of kept quiet and sort of done it on my own for many, many years. Right. And you know, I started to gain some attention from some local celebrities in my area that I used to live. I used to live in Oakville, and I had Pinball Clemens, if you guys know who that is.
I've met Pinball.
Yeah, Pinball is an awesome guy. But back in the day, you know, he saw me perform in magic at like a basketball court just close to my house, and you know, just doing some magic for some friends and things. Like I wouldn't necessarily you know, say that I was you know, fully immersed in magic at that point, but it was definitely something that I loved to do. And it was only until, like, you know, people start to see that, oh, you know what, maybe this guy could be brought here to do something special for some guests that I have, right? That it started to turn into more of like okay, I could maybe turn this into a little bit of a career, you know?
So it's very natural.
Yeah, it's totally natural. And I mean, like, you know, it's with pinball, like that was a really cool thing that happened when I was younger, because he would take me to all the games when I was younger and perform magic for all the teammates before they started to play their game, right? And it was cool. Like I just literally got to do so much at such a young age that I started to understand and see the potential that magic has, right? And I just started to practice, and I spent years of my like high school years, I would say, just literally practicing day in and day out, just trying to really master the art form. It's a lot of hours, but that's pretty much how it goes with anything, right?
Yeah. So we'll get to the TV show part, 'cause I think that's really interesting, but I just want to give the audience a little bit of context as to where you are in terms of magic and career now. I know that you, or at least last we were speaking, I mean, you don't do magic full time, you still do graphics, but maybe I'm wrong. Can you tell us a little bit about what magic, how magic has a place in your life right now?
For sure. So magic is always going to be the forefront in everything that I do in my life. It's it's granted so much opportunity, like I was saying before, and it's always going to be like the forefront. But for now, what I basically did is I performed a bunch last year, and I got a really good amount of experience performing on stage, which is something that I've wanted to do for so long. And putting together my stage show, it was a learning process. Just being able to get up there, because I hadn't really performed. I'd done street magic, but I hadn't really performed in front of like a audience of like 50 to 100 people, right? And so getting through that and getting through that experience, like gaining that experience was so fulfilling. Like I honestly like couldn't have asked for like a better year of performing, because the Drake Hotel, which you guys, Jonah, you know about that, right?
Yep.
The Drake Hotel is a local Toronto club here and hotel, and they were kind enough to let me be their resident magician for the year, and I was lucky enough to be able to perform there pretty often and put on my stage show. So like just pretty much like gaining that experience, that's obviously like the forefront. But I took that year, like I basically took this time away to kind of just get back into more of like the practicing and the nitty gritty of magic, and sort of just dig deeper into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, one of the things that we hear a lot about on this podcast about magicians, going pro or in their journey going pro, is sort of losing that fun and passion and the ability to like work on magic because you're so busy like dealing with what your big stage is and maybe booking gigs and whatever else is on your mind at a professional level. So I like the idea of sort of the on-off rotating of it, and in the meantime you can focus on other things. Yeah,
exactly. It's so important to anything really. You got to take time off to just go back to the reason why you do the thing that you do, right? And it's just kind of sparking that whole sort of interest and just figuring out what that passion is exactly, and just going back and just literally going back to the books really, and just studying and figuring out how to improve. And I've been, like I said, like I've been fortunate with my TV show and my live show, but I'm now reassessing and trying to figure out what the next steps are going to be, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you don't mind sharing, what do you think your next steps are? I mean, you've already made it onto TV and you're playing big stages and you're well known. So what is next for Zack Mirza?
I think it's a very, very, very interesting question, and it's something that I've been planning for a little while, but I can't dive too deeply into it. But I will say that I finally found, in my opinion, what magic is to me. And it's not just magic; it's art as well. And I think Jonah, you touched on this. I'm actually an animator and a visual development artist. So I've worked professionally in the industry on and off as well. And, I've had the opportunity to work on some like really cool children's shows back in the day. And, I continue to obviously do a lot of drawing as well, because it's my passion. It's my main passion before magic. And, it's kind of the reason why I do magic, if that makes sense. Cause it's,
talk a little bit.
There's a lot of similarities, right?
Which are, so
like there's a lot of similarities in the sense that animation is the illusion of life, right? And what we do with magic is pretty much the exact same thing. So it's a natural parallel. So I find like with studying animation, it's given me so much more insight into how to perform and how to actually create visuals. So
right.
You're sort of crafting your own reality in both scenarios, right?
Absolutely. So it's really really interesting how like you can basically literally make something happen that is obviously an illusion, but the audience believes it. And it's the exact same thing with animation. You're witnessing a character animated on a screen that is literally the embodiment of life.
Yeah, it's almost like you get to elicit an emotion through nothing, right?
You're asking them to invest in something they know isn't real in both scenarios.
Exactly.
Very cool. Okay, so let's talk about this television show, Illusions of Grandeur. Before we get into sort of what it was, how did you land yourself a television show?
It's again falling into like a place somewhere. The best way to put it is like right place, right time sort of thing,
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to meet a few people in the industry, in the television industry, that were that had seen me perform from various parties and things that I had done, and I got connected to a couple people that worked in the television industry, and I had been filming stuff on my own, literally on my own penny and my own dollar for a very long time, like literally going out to New York on literally no budget at all, filming stuff just literally on the streets of New York. But no, it's going back and literally just looking back at that, like I was pretty much doing that for a while until I finally started to put some stuff together and put it up on YouTube. So I guess you could say that I was sort of discovered through YouTube, but not in any sort of grand way at all.
You're not the like Justin Bieber of magic.
Nothing like that. I would say it was more like I had content online. It didn't have too big of an exposure, but it definitely did, I guess, exemplify what the potential of like a TV show could be.
And the fact that you were doing it on your own shows that you were
Mm-hmm.
prepared to work with a team, right?
Sure, but
and also we have to think about like the mental process that somebody goes through before somebody says, and I don't know exactly how it went down, but you said you met the right people. Before someone says to you like, "Hey, do you ever think about doing a show?" They're probably going to Google you, right? And creating content is so important, not just because you're going to be discovered there, but because when they type your name into the World Wide Web, you want to be able to be like, go ahead, Google me, right? You don't want to be able to say, oh, I don't have the right videos up right now. Soon I'll have something. So even if you're not making videos to go viral, just making videos to have awesome quality content of you is worth it. Exactly, just to showcase when the time comes.
And I think that's what it was. It was pretty much just me putting together a little body of work.
Portfolio.
And I passed it over to a couple people that eventually led to getting the call from the production company that told me that the show was sold to OLN. So.
Incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did you feel? Were you like, oh my gosh, this is going to be everything I ever wanted? Or was it like a 100-pound weight was just dropped on your head and how am I going to come up with magic?
It definitely did feel like a 100-pound weight for sure, maybe more. But no, one thing I will say is that, look, it didn't happen overnight in the sense that like, I had all the content ready, and like I was able to get a show just like that. There was a lot of a lot of years of work put into putting that together. So I do have to mention that it takes time. It takes time to really put together something that you feel proud of. And like I remember the first time that I actually pitched the show, it was unsuccessful because they saw the material and they were just like, you know what, this isn't exactly what we're looking for. But I didn't really want to take no as an answer. So I went back out to New York a few times again. Like,
so it sounds like it wasn't really like you bumping into the wrong people, but you being very proactive.
It was very proactive, but that's the thing. Opportunities are created when you are proactive, right? And so you have to constantly be doing stuff in order for those opportunities to present themselves. I'm a firm believer in that.
You have to put yourself in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. Once if we're going to speak about it in a more, I guess, a spiritualistic sense, I feel like, you output that energy. Once you're doing something that you really, really strongly believe in, those pathways are going to be presented to you,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Putting what you want out into the universe, as silly as that is or not silly as that is, whether you treat that as a spiritual thing or you treat that as like a very actualized thing, they're both the right approach. So I think that's really good advice. One of the reasons I asked about feeling a bit over your head is I know that on so many other shows, when the magician gets the show, all of a sudden they're compiling themselves a team to help create magic because there's so much magic that needs to go out for a show. Did you compile yourself a team? Did you do it all yourself? Did you just open up some old notebooks? How did you come up with enough magic to support the whole show?
So the thing is with a TV show, as many of you may or may not know, a lot of the content, a lot of the tricks that are done are a lot of the effects, I should say. They can be stuff that's obviously out there in the market, but some of the stuff is obviously created specifically for the show. So it was a combination of both. And so I came prepared with as much as I felt I could. And then after that, I was very fortunate enough to have Daniel Garcia and Enrico de la Vega, who are amazing, and also Lisa de la Vega as well. Come onto the show and really make it what it is. And they looked at what was there and what we could do, and we created some really cool, interesting, original magic for some of the episodes that took months of like development work.
So for somebody at home who maybe has never heard of Illusions of Grandeur, how would you explain to them what is it as a show?
I would say it's a very real reality show. If that makes
It's a very real like magic reality show.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very they really got to the core essence of someone trying to, I'm talking in the third person now, but someone trying to achieve a goal, and I think it was a very honest approach, and I feel like there's definitely people that looking at the show. They see that honest approach, right? And they see that like genuine. It's not about just like the glitz and glam of being like a top celebrity magician and performing for this and that, and and so on and so forth. But it was really about like the core essence behind, what drives a person to become better at their craft.
Awesome. I was actually at a family dinner. It was my great aunt's birthday / her son's birthday celebration dinner, and one of the birthday guests' partners pulled me aside after I had done some magic for their kids and just ranted about you for about 15 minutes. And she watched your show and was in love with it and asked me if I had ever interviewed you, and I said soon, and now we're doing it. So
link to the episode on
here we are
on her page. I don't know.
Okay,
follow whatever. It was just a story. All right. There's nothing. It didn't go anywhere.
So let's talk a little bit about your Genie deck that you just kickstarted. Not only did you successfully kickstart the deck, but it's also not one of those things where you call up your buddy on the other side of the world and say, "Can you design a deck for me?" You know, we in one of the earlier episodes with Lee Asher, we spoke a lot about deck design and stuff like that, and he told us that there's, you know, a small handful of artists who are designing most of the decks of cards out there, which is crazy. So it's awesome when it's absolutely insane. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. So it's just insane, and it's all the more exciting when we find out that someone like you is making their own deck hands-on. So can you talk a little bit about the launch and the funding of the Genie deck?
For sure. So, you know, before we actually get into the Kickstarter campaign, it's more, I want to go back to like the how the idea struck me, if that makes sense, you know? It really, honestly, how it came about, it was I had this idea, you know, I spoke about this in the Kickstarter video as well, but I love visuals, right? Like I love the visuals that magicians of the past, like Houdini and you know, like Thurston and all these guys, like they all had very, very, very interesting and beautiful artwork to display themselves or an act that they were doing or something or another, right? It always intrigued me. Like I always really, really liked that aspect of magic, just the visual representation of the magician, because it paints a story in a way, you know, about that magician. So, being an artist, I've been very, very fortunate enough to, you know, be able to study animation, and you know, I went to school for animation at one of like the top schools in Canada, Sheridan College,
Sheridan,
which is Sheridan College, right? So their animation course, it's fairly difficult to get into their course, but you know, I was lucky. I was one of the few that, you know, got into it straight out of high school. So you know, I really am grateful of like the ability that, you know, I was able to translate my ability in art into now a deck of cards. So pretty much what happened was I had this idea after looking at this imagery of all these magicians, and you know, I really, really enjoyed the fact that they had these like sort of demonic elements to all these magicians, like with all these little red little devilish imps that were all around them, you know. So basically what I did is, you know, I wanted to sort of create something like that for myself. And, you know, obviously being a fan of animation and art and design, I obviously I love Aladdin, and I draw a lot of parallels to Aladdin just from my life. But, you know, it's definitely one of those things that inspired the deck of cards, because I was, you know, the actual creature which the whole in deck sort of encompasses, it's called a jinn. Now I won't get into like the actual like religious aspect of it, because it's not meant to be religious in any sense at all, but it's basically about taking that sort of fantastical folklore, I would say like Islamic folklore, and creating a little bit of like a fun, relatable character that could then translate into like a deck of cards, right? So the jinn, I obviously, from watching Aladdin, you see the blue genie, played by Robin Williams, who's amazing. So, you know, pretty much I wanted to take that concept and make it fun and relatable, but spell it the same way. So it's spelled Jinni.
Awesome.
Right? Which is like closer to what its actual origin is, if that makes sense. So once I thought of that character, I pretty much you know, started to draw and sketch up concepts of what I wanted this little guy to look like. So this was even before the deck of cards that even really come to me. It was just a little dude. That's all it was. And I was just trying to find an interesting way of maybe having that be in some sort of imagery, you know, that I was going to release for one of my live shows or something like that. But, you know, then it started to translate and turn into, you know, what if it could be more than that? What if it could be more than just this character? It could be, the character could literally be the theme of a whole entire deck of cards, like an Arabian mythology deck of cards, right? And so, taking that Arabian folklore and kind of turning it into this whole world, like I literally, with Phil, I got to say, I do have to mention my PIC, my partner in crime, Philip Sportel. Jonah, you met Philip. He's amazing. Him and I brainstormed this whole entire world for where these characters and all these people would exist, and this genie character would reside, right? So, not to bore you with this whole story, but yeah, that's pretty much how the concept and the idea came about. So then, obviously with all the face cards in the deck, I wanted them to be magicians that are close to me, that I've obviously been inspired by and that have mentored me, and I was able to involve them and create this whole entire world. So it's not just a deck of cards. There's more to it than that.
It seems like that deck of cards was such a combination and amalgamation of so many important things in your life. Everything from the actual animation to coming up with stuff with Arabian mythology, which resonates with you, to cards and magic, to putting in your some of your mentors and the people you've worked with, and so it just seems like a real amalgamation of important things in your magic life and your regular life, and that's super exciting for me, because one of the things in this podcast that we're trying to pass on is that there's a lot to magic that isn't just going and being a performer. You could really resonate with different parts of magic, and one of the things that we're preaching on the podcast is to go start doing, whether it's to get gigs or to get a show or to make a deck or whatever it is, just go start doing, start putting like balls in motion, start getting something out of magic, not taking something, but getting something, benefiting from magic. So this seems like a really great example of a project that gave you joy, I'm sure it's great that it was funded, but just seems exciting to be able to do.
Yeah. It's also really,
for sure.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, for, designing a deck of cards, right? Like that's something that I've always wanted to do, but I never really felt entirely ready to do. It took quite some time, I would say, because I had been thinking about this for a while, but I never felt ready to do it up until recently, where I just decided, just exactly like you just said, Jonah, you just got to start doing it,
You just have to start. So that's an awesome piece of advice. And I think for people at home who are thinking about doing something, if it's magic related and it's not dangerous, do it.
Yeah. If it's anything related, not dangerous.
As long as you're not shooting yourself in the face, then it's all
exactly.
good.
Yeah. That one you have to think about. Blaine. On that note, on the note of actually David Blaine, I wanted to talk about magic being cool. In the 2017, 2018 space, the way that magic is coming back up in pop culture is it's very cool again. It's on all these America's Got Talent and Got Talent shows. It seems like there's tons of television shows about magic, and it's just, the vision in people's heads is no longer the doofus guy with a hat and a bunny and whatever. It's starting to evolve, and I think people like you have had a big part in that evolution, on whether it's a small scale or a large scale. You're a cool guy who does magic and not a magician who's trying his best to be cool. So can you talk a little bit about the coolification of magic?
The coolification.
Yeah, I made up the word. That's a very
uncool
word. How cool magic is.
But yeah, what is cool? I really don't know what the true definition of that is, right. Really. I think what it is just being passionate about what you do, and I think, a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of exposure of magic right now, and a lot of, social media and a lot of TV shows and things like that are coming up. And, I've never really been, one to one to say that I'm a certain way or I'm different from this person because of this or anything like that. It's just more about, I think, like the art form itself, you know. And I think I feel like I have a different way of representing it than someone, you know. Just because of like my personality, because everyone is different. Everyone has a different way of presenting magic. So
I guess just one of the things that resonates there, aside from it being in tune with your personality, is just being honest and authentic. You know, one of the things.
Yeah, that's really honestly what it comes down to, man. Like, you just have to be, you know, completely okay with being you.
Yeah,
that might be it. I think the rebirth of the coolness in magic, the magic swagger, is the reinvention of the character, right? Like, we are no longer the dinky guy with the bunny in the hat. We're just people who also happen to have an amazing talent.
Because you know what? I think the dinky guy with the bunny in the hat is not being authentic. You know, I think at the end of the day, he might go home and go, who am I being, really? You know, like he might do that, or any other version of that. You know, in a less silly sense. I've walked off stage and I've been like, who was that guy that I was just on stage? Because that wasn't me. You know, that was some being that formed on the stage. Who is that?
That was what I thought a magician was. Exactly.
So I think the whole authenticity and being real with yourself is
I totally agree with that. Like, that is like a very, very, very important thing for all magicians to take note of. You have to be authentic, otherwise people see right through that shit.
Yeah.
Sorry,
that's sorry okay. You can swear. There's no rules here.
Okay, cool.
You're gonna fucking kill you.
But yeah, no, you definitely, that is such an important thing to say, man. You couldn't have said it any better. You got to be authentic.
Yeah. So you are a wildly accomplished magician, especially for your age. We have a lot of younger guys listening to this, and girls, but mostly guys, listening to this podcast, and a lot of people that would love to really expedite the process the way that you have. There's a lot of people who are like quitting their jobs and taking on magic, or people who are just in a transition period in their life where if magic really takes off the way that they hope it will, things can go in the direction that they want. So if there's a young magician, really budding magician trying to make it out there, what sort of advice would you give them?
That's a really good question. You know, all I can really say is believe in your passion. You know, it takes the belief in what you do, and you really have to love it. I think those are the two most important things. Like, it's about, well, passion and love are similar, but you know, you really do have to love what you do in order for you to take it where you want to go. Because I think, you know, a lot of people have like a convoluted sort of sense of, you know, their ambitions and what they want to do with, say, any sort of art form, not just magic, but like, say, you know, a musician. Yeah, I want to be on stage and I want to go perform in front of like 50,000 people, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's you gotta have like that belief, but you also have to have the passion and the work ethic to really make that happen.
You
right?
have to be willing to play on a stage with one person in the audience in order to get
exactly.
there. You have to love that just as much as the big stage.
Like, yeah, that is exactly it. Like, you literally have to be okay with baby steps, you know. And you know, a lot of people have like I said, like false ambitions of where they want to go and what they want to do. But as long as you set yourself like sort of realistic goals and you have like that methodical and very, very passionate mindset, honestly, you can seriously. I will say this because if I can be, you know, it's clear to say this. It can happen. Yeah. Anything can happen.
Yep. I fully agree. And one of the things that's so clear through your story, you know, you seem to throw things off as if you didn't put in crap tons of work into getting them to happen. In the way you talk about it. And one of the reasons why I think that is because it's about enjoying the journey. You know, you didn't even say it so negatively that you were rejected on your first show pitch. It was almost just part of the story of your show, right? So loving the journey, loving the small shows as much as the big shows. You know, it's hard to make it if your goal is to be on a stage in front of 10,000 people. But if your goal is to do magic shows all the time, you know, on bigger and bigger stages for better audiences, you know, and each show you love, each show isn't like, damn, 5 people, that's 995 less than my goal. Not like that, but instead really enjoying each and every show, or whatever it is, enjoying the process of making a deck, you know, the struggle of getting it funded, and the struggle of drawing it, and the struggle of picking only 12 possible magicians, or whatever it is, 8 that you could feature as the royal cards, or whatever. You know, those are all difficult, hard decisions, but also fun decisions and journeys that you get to be on, and it makes it way less difficult.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You gotta enjoy the failures.
Yeah.
If that makes sense too, you know, because the only way that you're going to grow is if you fail. And a lot of the things that, you know, happen, if you read about any sort of successful story, it's not just an easy process of getting from point A to point B. There's like a whole other alphabet system that happens in between those 2 letters that, you know, you gotta navigate through and journey through in order for you to reach your destination.
Yeah. And instead of falling in love with the end goal, falling in love with the path might be a better journey there. So I think that's really awesome advice for the young guys. Now we're going to start wrapping up the episode, but that doesn't mean that it's going to end anytime soon, because we have way too many wrap-up questions. So we have a whack of questions that we ask at the end of the episode. Don't let my fast talking make it seem like they're rapid-fire answers. Feel free to take your time.
For sure.
The first question is basically, you have millions of magicians at home listening to you. Do you have a magical PSA for them? So this is a little bit different from just advice. Maybe there's something that you want to tell the magic world, a hope that they should do something. Yeah, what they should stop doing, anything.
That's a very interesting question. A magic PSA. I like that. I think we sort of touched on it. It's be authentic.
Be authentic. I love that.
Like that's the name of the game. Just be you, man. Like, don't try and be like anybody else, but you. That's it. That's the only you are you. So why should you be anybody else?
It's crazy how much advice from how many different people about how many different categories come down to like self-awareness, being authentic, knowing yourself, being honest with yourself. Like every single thing comes down to just know you, just be you. So it's both that, exactly, and be happy with that, right? Yeah, and with that journey. You could be unhappy every day. You could be unhappy every day that you're not where you want to be, or you can enjoy getting there, right? So I think that's a really awesome thing to take from this. I'm going to gift you basically my audience for about 12 seconds. You can ask them anything you want. They love answering questions. It can be an opinion question. It can be anything even moderately or mildly related to the world of magic. What would you like to ask an audience full of magicians?
I think we also touched on this a little bit too, but there's the social media magician.
Yeah.
And then there's the TV magician. Yeah. Which do you prefer?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. Social media magic versus TV magic, and I think they are different. You know, they're one of the interesting things about social media magic, especially YouTube, that I was just thinking about this, is when you look back at YouTube metrics, you can see in the minute that people drop off, right? Totally. Which means that over time, the videos are going to be not necessarily better, but better crafted to keep people watching them, right? Whereas TV might have a little bit of a different spin. Maybe you could complete a more full project because they don't know when people are turning off the TV. So they might be going more with their artistic goals and not necessarily with what the metrics tell them. So that's an interesting thing that I was thinking about recently, and I'm very excited to hear what the Discourse in Magic audience has to say about TV magic versus online magic. And I love that we excluded in-person magic. Screw you. You
normals. You normals.
Yeah, exactly. Another part is we each go through and we talk about what we thought was one of the most important parts of the episode. I have a feeling this is going to get a little bit repetitive because we really hit on a great part of the episode. But for me, I mean, one of the things that I liked that slipped under the radar was how chill you were talking about your failures and how it almost seemed like things just fell into place. But when we looked at it again, you were being proactive and active about it and putting yourself out there and putting yourself on the line. So I think just really making fun out of, not making fun of, but making fun out of your experiences in Magic makes it feel as if you're not bending over backwards trying to make them happen. It makes it feel like the pieces just fall into place. So that's one thing from the episode that really resonated with me. Tyler, just something that resonated with you?
I really appreciated hearing about your design and creation of the Genie deck. And it was just refreshing to hear that there are people who care so much about the finer details of things. And they're not like, oh, I want to make a Celtic deck, or I want to make this is a hot dog deck. And it's just completely random. I think I could kickstart and sell, 10,000 of these. You're actually putting yourself into it.
I've seen that burger deck, though. It's pretty dope.
Or like the chicken nuggets, like that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it was just very interesting to hear the behind the scenes of the Genie deck, and hopefully there are some more stories like that in the card creation world. Zach, what about you?
Yeah, dude, I totally appreciate that. Thank you. I think when it comes to creation, that's what I thrive for. I love the creative process, and being an artist, that's obviously my forte. Like I love being able to sort of figure out not only like the linear direction of a creative process, but where it could go, where you could take it, right? Yeah. And that's what I tried to do with the deck of cards. Like I wanted it to be, obviously, first of all, a dope ass deck of cards that you can use for cardistry and for Magic, but I also wanted to sort of dive a little bit deeper into it and have it be something that actually sort of has some story and some history behind it, right? And I don't get me wrong, I've seen some decks of cards that are so awesomely designed, but I've always felt like there was something missing as far as like an animator's touch. We touched on this before as well, like about like the illusion of life, right? Yeah. A lot of the designs that we see in cards these days, they're very flat, right? They're very graphic.
I was just going to use the word flat to describe like the royal.
And don't get me wrong, like I love graphic design. I truly do. But I think what was missing, and that's the reason why I sort of designed this deck of cards, is because I wanted to sort of re-envision what a card could look like in a more illustrated / like animated way, if that makes sense.
That absolutely does, and I think it's they say about painters, they say like when they start painting, the artist is painting the painting, and then when it's done, it's the painting who is painting the artist or whatever. Like, and same they say about writing. When you write a book, you're creating the characters, and then the characters create themselves, right? Like,
that is so true. That's actually so true.
Like, yeah, so it seems like that's really what's going on here. What started as this like the Jinn, the little character, evolved into a deck, and almost he created you creating the deck, right? Which is a very beautiful and poetic way to mention just enjoying the journey, because it could take you to somewhere where maybe you didn't necessarily expect it to, and I think that's really, really exciting.
Right. The other thing that I was going to say is, like, obviously, you mentioned this about the failures. Right now, don't get me wrong. Like, failures in the moment can definitely feel, very, very hard, and they can be emotionally taxing. But it's about how you channel that, right? And a lot of people tend to get bogged down by a lot of like the failures that they have, and then they don't end up doing anything else. But it's about how many punches you can take, and how many times can you hear the word no before the word yes appears.
Exactly. And failures, as much as we talk about enjoying them which is hard. I'll give you that. But
It is really hard, but
yeah,
you
but
gotta do it.
you got to do it, number one. But number two, failures make way better stories than successes do. Because when you're eventually successful, you really want those failure stories. Trust me. It gives depth to your success story when you get to fail. So that's a little fun little message. And I think our last, I'm so lost as to how many closing segments we have, but the last is that we, to keep this magic podcast alive forever, we basically get every magician to recommend another magician. The only caveat is that they need to be able to put us in contact with them. So is there a magician in this world that you think we should have on the podcast?
I would say I could probably arrange Dan White.
That sounds
would
fantastic.
be incredible.
Fantastic. And he would also be a great guy to get on the
Don't hold me
podcast.
on that, but I can.
I won't hold you on that, but it will be published for the world to hear. So
definitely
have him
definitely
potentially in the works.
Definitely
Get
won't
excited.
hold you on that, but I definitely have. I have your word recorded. So
Yeah,
I'm
there you
joking.
go.
I'm just playing with you. And by the way, Dan, if you listen to this and you can't make it, that's fine.
But we need you. We really need you. Last but not least, Zach, do you have any plugs? Anything you want the world to know about upcoming projects, TV shows, anything
sure.
like that?
Yeah, there is actually a lot under works right now. Some of which I can't talk about, but some of the stuff which we've already touched on here, which is obviously the Kickstarter campaign and the Genie deck. If you guys missed out on the Kickstarter, the decks will be available soon through my website at www.zackmirza.com. If you guys,
By the way, a beautiful website.
Yeah.
I take joy in ripping apart people's websites.
Oh, yeah?
Specifically magicians.
Yeah, I like specifically like magicians and being like, this sucks, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Your website's really good, so props
thank
to you on
you so
that.
much, man.
And
That
people should
means
go
a lot.
check it out. I do have notes for you, but it's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, I would love to hear those notes too. But yeah, if what was the question again? What am I answering?
Plug anything you want people to.
ZackMirza.com to buy the deck.
So ZackMirza.com, that's where if you guys want to join up to the mailing list, there's a mailing list up there right now. And that'll basically update you on when the cards actually do become available and how you can get them for yourself as well. Other than that, social media, you can follow me at Zack Mirza, ZackMirza. I'm on Snapchat and Instagram, and I post a lot of art on there too. So if you guys are interested,
It's pretty cool. You post you've been posting you actually doing the animation for the deck.
Yeah,
I think cool to watch it.
Like I said, the creative process, right? A lot of people like to see the behind the scenes and see how some of this stuff works. So I'm not just about putting the stuff up there. I really enjoy involving people in the process. So as much as I can, I'll try and obviously have myself filming myself, like recording some of the work that I'm doing.
Well, that is absolutely awesome, and I think everybody should go check you out, whether it's just to take a peek at what's going on with the beautiful animation of the deck, or to just to even follow you on social media, because you got some cool stuff coming out, and they definitely do not want to miss it.
One last thing.
Go ahead.
Next year, I'm aiming for probably the end of the year, but it's looking like it's going to happen next year. I've got a new live show in the works, so I've been spending some time, just kind of crafting from the year of experience that I got, performing. And
this is your off year, so we're expecting you to come back big.
Totally. Hopefully, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
This was the year you spent thinking about magic while you did animation.
Exactly.
So we're hoping you tear the house down when you come back with your live show.
And I appreciate that. No, it's gonna be exciting. I've got some ideas and some original content that people haven't seen before, and I also have a couple of effects that are going to be available soon for the public next year. So.
Huge. We are very excited, and we're glad that we could share you with the Discourse in Magic audience. Of course, big thank you to you, Zach, for joining us on this episode.
Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And Jonah, I know we've tried to do this many times, but I'm glad that we made it happen today.
Me too.
Me
and of
too.
course, a big thank you to the people at home. And give yourselves a pat on the back, people at home. You didn't do any pinky breaks. You didn't do any card tricks, but you learned a ton. So give yourselves a pat on the back, and thank you guys so much. We'll see you all next Thursday.
Thanks so much,
Take
guys.
care, everybody.
Thanks, Tyler.
Well, booyah, there you go, episode 73 of Discourse in Magic, and I hope that you liked it. I know that I learned a ton, and it was a ton of real great motivation from Zack Mirza. As always, if you haven't followed us, time to follow us somewhere. This time, I say Instagram. Go follow us up on Instagram. Things are getting pretty excited there. We're at Discourse in Magic, and otherwise, I'll see you Thursday.